Hi everyone, how's it going? Woohoo, happy Spirit Day. I see some of you are wearing purple. And as a quick side note to that, it's probably a little hard to see, but we've got a whole bunch of enamel pins that say gay, because that's what we're all doing here and the importance of that visibility. So if you want to find myself, Matt Tuminello over there, by the back, or any other time, I guess in the remaining 12 hours, we can give you one. But we're really excited to be here. Let me just do some quick introductions. I'm Matt Wagner. I'm the VP of Client Services for Target 10. I'll say a little bit more about the agency, but we're an LGBTQ marketing and consulting firm based out of New York City. And I'll toss it to my colleagues to introduce themselves. Sorry.
Hello.
Oh.
It is. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is John Lake. I am the diverse segment marketing leader for Wells Fargo, specifically focused on the LGBTQ segment. I've been at Wells Fargo for just about 9 years now, and I've been in that role that time. Prior to Wells, actually led the corporate program at the Human Rights Campaign, and then prior to that, did a lot of LGBTQ marketing on the agency side.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew Conrado, and I'm Associate Marketing Manager at PepsiCo. I've been at PepsiCo for my entire career, and I currently work on bubbly sparkling water, strategy, innovation, but aside from that, have also, thank you, have also led our LGBTQ marketing work in New York City.
And forgive me for not saying it earlier, our pronouns are on the slide. I am identify as he, him. We have a jam-packed agenda for you, so I'll kick us off, and then I'll toss it over to John and then Matthew, and we'll get to hear a whole lot of really great stuff about how to engage appropriately and resonantly with LGBTQ consumers. So what I'll be talking about is best practices. And of course, we've got 6 here, far more than 6, but I think these are some really good places to start your thinking, to get started, and then we have creative examples for each of them to give you a little bit of inspiration as well. But before jumping into that, I wanted to say a little bit about Target 10, because you might not know us quite as well as Wells Fargo or PepsiCo, but we are a LGBTQ marketing and consulting agency, and we're all about building relationships that are meaningful, lasting, and respectful between brands and LGBTQ consumers. And we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and I have to give a shout out to the founder and president, Matt Tuminello, who had the bravery to start the agency in 2001. And I've had the privilege of being along for the ride for the last 15 and a half years. So it's been pretty incredible, and we're excited for the next 20. And just one more slide on us, it's all about, like, how do we come to these best practices? We're not just necessarily finding them by Google. And there's maybe 4 key ways that we do this. First, we're driven by insights. There are a lot of insights that are on the surface, chosen family being one, for example. There are others that are more specific to certain communities, but they're not always obvious, and sometimes you need to dig a little deeper. And in those cases, we're very data forward. We love research, our own research in-house. We'll work with research vendors to enable more LGBTQ respondents to be part of their surveys, in-house research departments at our clients' companies, so on and so forth. We're also in with the out crowd. We've been doing it for a long time. We know a lot of people, a lot of great people. We like to say from executive directors to drag queens and everyone in between. We either know them or we're a phone call away. And
Executive directors who are drag queens.
even better. And we're immersed in this segment. We're fluent in the market. It's our personal and professional passion. We live it day in and day out. And so that's just a little bit about Target 10. So jumping right into best practices. The first is understanding your LGBTQ consumer target. And the point here is, during Pride, and actually a lot of the other time, companies and brands are addressing the community as a whole, when that's everyone. There are so many different segments and slices and variations of our community. You can't always only talk to us as a conglomeration. And so who are the slices that appeal most to, or that your brand appeals most to? Where's the business target, for example? So you can have the overarching LGBTQ outreach, engagement, et cetera, but then you can kind of also laser focus. Perhaps you're focusing on queer women 20 to 30, or gay men who are Gen Z, things of that nature, and there are very specific ways that you can go a little deeper than just talking to the community as a whole. So the example we have for you here is, this is from one of our pieces of client work. We do a lot of work with Johnson & Johnson. For the last 11 years, they've had an initiative called Care with Pride. and it's an LGBTQIA plus advocacy initiative. And it's supported by brands. So we talk to the community as a whole via Care with Pride, and then each brand is paired with an influencer that's relevant to that brand's target audience for a business reason. And so in this case, the brand was Clean and Clear, which, as you might imagine, as an acne skincare line, was looking to appeal to younger folks, younger queer folks, Gen Z. And a few years ago, some of you may recognize Blair Imani. She's a fantastic influencer who is really in the vanguard of this kind of educator, advocate, activist class of influencers that's become much bigger. And she had this really great series where she would teach her Smarties about all sorts of topics related to intersectionality, LGBTQ, and all sorts of other stuff too. So this is just a brief snippet from a piece of work that we did with Blair. Oh, I think we need sound on that. Should I just keep trying? Let me know if there's anything I should do, because the whole presentation is video, so. Sorry, guys. Bear with us. Sorry, people. Bear with us. Yeah, that's not how. Let me know when I should try again. And thank you to all the viewers joining us at home. It's okay, it's giving me a second to compose myself. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Well, we've got captions. Hopes were high.
Yeah, but like all the rest of them are video.
We can sing the Mean Girls.
It's a swell time to go riding in a one-horse sleigh. Thank you, Matthew.
For some reason, we didn't get the audio come across. We've got the video, but no sound on those videos.
On all of them?
That's, I'm not really sure what to say about that, because this whole thing is video with sound.
Can you continue on and get us another copy?
Do you want, do you have video in yours?
I have a short video, but most of mine is not video, so if you want me to go.
Could we do that? Switch the order and just, okay. Thanks for bearing with us. Sorry, is that okay?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So,
Is there a separate file for him?
no,
So it's further on?
yeah.
Do you have approximately level of which slide it is, perhaps?
25 maybe, I'm not sure offhand.
I can actually start without slides. Okay, I'm going to start without slides. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do it. Hi again, everyone. My name is John Lake. Like I said, I'm at Wells Fargo. I use he, him pronouns, and it is great to be here. I originally thought that it would be great to have this on the last day because I would have 2 days to prepare for it. Now I'm realizing I should have gone on the first day because, man, I'm tired. Like, this has been amazing. But so much great content. It's actually interesting. I have several things to talk about with regard to how we approach marketing to the LGBTQ segment. We wanted to cover kind of how you look outside of June, how you look outside of Pride Month to kind of reach your marketing objectives and to connect with the community. And when we first talked about this, it was interesting because this was in the summer, I think, and it was obvious. It was like, well, you have to go outside of Pride. Pride is easy. Pride is kind of the ground floor. Like, how do you then build on that? But then a few things happened, and it's interesting to me that I think key to doing this work well is to be so closely connected to what's going on in the social landscape, in the political landscape, because it can really impact how you need to show up. And I want to start with kind of polling the room. How many of you work for a company that does show up for Pride with some kind of marketing efforts, whether it's sponsorships or marketing? Okay, I think almost every hand in the room is raised. How many of you have your companies been attacked, called to the carpet from the right side, so from the conservative side, because you shouldn't be out there for Pride, you shouldn't be taking a political stance? Okay, good, fair number. How many of your companies have been called out by the LGBTQ community because you shouldn't be out there, taking over Pride and rainbow washing or pink washing? Okay, so that's where we find ourselves now, is in this interesting place where we're kind of getting it from both sides. And so this, to me, it made me almost argue with the whole concept of this. Like, Pride is easy, let's look at outside of Pride. Pride is not easy anymore. Pride is something that, that we show up and we get it from both sides. So that's where we really need to find the balance and do it well. So on my agenda, I had 2 things that I wanted to talk about. First, how we have looked at our Pride strategy and how we've evolved, how we show up for the community, and then how we look at year-round engagement outside of Pride. And I guess I'm going to be doing this without slides. So I will talk first about our Pride strategy, and I have this beautiful slide with all of these like boxes and things. But we, coming out of 2 years of virtual Prides, we took a hard look at how we show up. It was a good opportunity for a shift. And in the past, a lot of what we did for Pride had been driven by marketing objectives, marketing KPIs, how we show up in the community. This year we pivoted. I hate that word, but coming out of the pandemic, everything is a pivot, right? We pivoted and we shifted our strategy for Pride into a much more employee engagement focused strategy. And I'll get to some of the benefits of that later because it did open up a lot of resources so that then we could look outside of June in how we're showing up in the community and would have the resources to actually do something about it. But we took kind of 3 tactics to support this kind of shifting objective. The first was, instead of, from a marketing perspective, we would look at Pride and we would say, okay, if we're gonna sponsor Prides, let's, we'll start in New York, San Francisco, LA, DC, and then kind of see the resources we have left and kind of start going down the list. And we usually ended up in about 40 to 50 Prides every year. This year we took a different tact, kind of because we were connected to the social and political landscape, what was going on out there in the community. We decided to instead work from the bottom up. So, thank you. So looking at where our employees and our customers needed to see the brand to feel supported in places like Florida and Texas and the Midwest and places where the community is essentially under attack and we're being used as a political pawn. And so we decided, okay, and this was controversial the first time that we presented it within the organization to our DE&I team and within marketing. You know what, let's not, like showing up in New York as one of 1,000 other companies and we're like at the end of the parade, like what good is that going to do for us from a marketing perspective anyway? But you know what, showing up in Dubuque, showing up in Tallahassee, those places really can make a difference for our employees and our customers. So that was one kind of tactic switch that we put in place. The second one was to take some of the learnings that we had coming out of the pandemic when everything went virtual for 2 years. And we had an amazing team from our ERG that all of a sudden had to turn on a dime and create programming to ensure that our community within Wells Fargo was still connected during June. So we took those learnings into 2022 and created a robust schedule, calendar of events all throughout June to ensure that no matter where you were, whether you were in New York or whether you were in Tallahassee, you were still connected to the community, to the Wells Fargo LGBTQ community, and you know, around the country and around the world too, because we did a lot from a global perspective as well. So I actually have a beautiful slide that shows our 30 days of Pride. There were activities every day of the year, or every day of the month, whether they were big, like our CEOs in a conversation that we did as a webinar, or small, like just reminding people to self-identify and the importance of self-identification. There was something, an activity every day that could connect you to the community. So let me see, did I cover everything? Yeah. So what this shift in strategy allowed us to do was free up resources, actually, to, from a marketing perspective, we weren't out there. We actually cut our marketing budget pretty significantly for the month of June. That allowed us to do more marketing outside of June and show up for the community at other points during the year. So, oh, here we go, yay. Okay, 2 more slides. Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, here we go. And yeah, come on, Matt. Okay, next one. Oh wait, do I have the click? Who's the clicker? Okay, right. Oh, perfect. Okay, I can take over from here. There we go. Okay, so this is the calendar of our 30 Days of Pride. You can see something great for our employees to do every day. We scaled back national advertising. We amped up our own channels. So a lot of what we were doing, we turned to what we were doing on ATMs. We turned to what we were doing in branches on our website to ensure that we had the visibility. We just weren't out there with a big splashy ad campaign like we had been in the past. Our creative focused on our 30th year of marching with the community, which is something that we felt differentiated us from a lot of companies out there, but also, again, back to this employee-based strategy, involve them in this history that we've had marching with the community for 30 years. And there's our little ATM ad that brought to life the rainbow pinwheel that is our new ERN logo. So outside of June, and you're going to be up next, here's how we were able to take some of those resources. So the first, there are 3 things that I'm going to cover that are kind of strategically how we looked at amping up outside of June. The first was connecting to apertures other than Pride. One of those is, as you all know, LGBTQ History Month in October. And we happen to have a very authentic connection to that from a product perspective. We have a collection of ATM debit card designs that our customers can access that focus on iconography and kind of historic artifacts from LGBTQ history. So we decided, instead of a Pride campaign, let's run an LGBTQ History Month campaign and tie in some of these beautiful designs from our card design portfolio. And you can see that ad there on the right. are on the left, sorry, backwards here. We also worked with a media company called Equal Pride, who is now kind of the owner of Advocate Out and all of those properties. They did an article about the 6 different designs and the history behind each design. So that was part of the advertising campaign that we did. They were a great partner in this. And then of course, leveraging all of our social media channels and a nice significant paid social media campaign around this as well, which was interesting to see some of the comments. I mean, they say, don't ever read the comments, right? Well, I always read the comments. And they were positive. There was a lot of, these are beautiful, like, thank you for being there for the community. But then there were a lot of, well, don't the gays get enough in June? Like, why are you taking October too? Do you really, anyway, so yeah, it was both on both sides. And going back to what I said earlier, there's still so much negativity out there that none of this is easy. You know, you're still fighting kind of the same battles we've been fighting for decades. So, in addition to the paid campaign, so connecting to apertures is one of the ways that we've been connecting to the community outside of Pride. The second is something that I've been fighting for a long time, and that's inclusion of LGBTQ imagery in general market advertising. And we were able to do that this year. This is a home lending campaign for Wells Fargo that is just about to break. And you'll see, I'll let it play. And there's no sound, but you'll get the idea. Yeah, thank you. It's mostly music anyway.
You guys want to hold the mic up to another computer, like the videos?
This will be over in a second. Everyone loves the cat. So what you saw, thank you. This is not an ad that's going to be running in gay channels. This is an ad that's our home mortgage ad for the fall. And what I love about it is that first image of that of the individual who's breaking down the wall, both literally and figuratively, because this is the first time we've cast a non-binary person in a general market commercial, which is super exciting. Their name is Andy, and they were amazing to work with and just so excited to break through that wall. So that was awesome. And then Joshua and Orlando are the couple that you see in the branch later in the spot, and they're actually a couple in real life. We wanted that authenticity as well. So we look to both in front of the camera how we're casting and how we're writing our creative, but then behind the camera as well, how we're engaging with agencies and production companies to ensure that they're diverse as well. We work with our supply chain and supplier diversity teams to ensure that they're including LGBTQ in their mix of diverse suppliers. So that's 2 ways to look at general market advertising and how you're including LGBTQ in that. And then the last thing that I'll cover is we looked at how we were approaching philanthropy too, kind of coming out of the pandemic and looking at the social landscape as it was with the transgender community in particular under attack. And we recognized that we had a gap in our giving. We give to a lot of great organizations, GLSEN and Trevor, and a lot of them have very robust programs focused on transgender wellness and other aspects of that community. But we were not giving to an organization that was both focused and led by the transgender community, which was a gap. I mean, it's really a gap. So we were able to work with our philanthropy team, our foundation, in identifying this, and we're able to pull together a very significant grant for the Transgender Law Center, who was doing amazing work in places like Texas and Florida to address some of the stuff that was going on in the community and continues to go on. And we didn't just do it, we amplified it, especially internally, because we wanted our employees to know that, that we were also doing something that a lot of companies haven't done, and that's look beyond kind of the traditional LGBTQ organizations to focus on a T organization specifically. And then we were able to talk about that. turn into a lot of storytelling opportunities. And hopefully next year in our advertising, that's something that we'll be able to focus on. So to sum up, thank you for your patience as we kind of got all this together. There were 4 things that I really wanted you to take from this. Align with the social and political landscape. That's number 1. Consider relevant apertures outside of Pride. You want it to be authentic, so ensure that whatever you're doing has an authentic connection to whatever that aperture is. Ensure inclusion of LGBTQ characters in general market efforts. So there's no reason why those folks going into a branch have to be, a sunny opposite sex couple. They can be same sex as well. And then, look at areas outside of what you're doing with marketing, like philanthropy, like supply chain, to ensure that they are also aligned to create impactful storytelling and impact on the community. So with that, I will turn it over to Pepsi, which is much more exciting than banking, but that's why I wanted to go first. But
Great job, John. Thank you so much. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Matthew Conrado, and I'm an Associate Marketing Manager at PepsiCo. And today I'm going to talk about how we at PepsiCo and Bubbly Sparkling Water win with the LGBTQ community, nationally great and locally even better. That's been a motto at PepsiCo for the past, as many years as I've been there. So for our agenda today, we're going to be talking about selling in your idea. That's the one question I get all the time is, how the heck did you get PepsiCo to buy into queer, LGBTQ, authentic marketing? We're also going to talk about understanding your consumer with very limited to no resources, tailoring that strategy so it really fits your consumer, and winning in the marketplace, again, not only from a national scale, but per marketplace. So 2 myths I'm here to debunk are, the first one, you're not senior enough to make a difference. I got somehow a budget at 25 years old to create my own marketing campaign. I'm only 27, and for anyone in the room who's feeling imposter syndrome or thinks they can't do it, know that you can, because if I can do it, you definitely can. So, cheers to that. The second myth I'm here to debunk is that ERGs don't influence business decisions. They were key and instrumental to selling in the idea, and I'm going to talk about that in my presentation. Now, a quote I live by is, and I don't know if anyone said this or who said it, but I made it up, or not made it up, but took it from a bunch of things, but if they don't give you a seat at the table, create your own table. And I think RuPaul is a perfect example of this, because it's not only being innovative towards giving yourself a spot and putting yourself at the highlight, but it's bringing along others and bringing along your community. And that's what I tried to bring with each of my campaigns, is not only am I doing this for me and my company, but also bringing along our community. And I'm incredibly proud of that, and I think you'll see within the creative that this was a labor of love from the entire queer community. However, PepsiCo is still a massive company, and they still want to see the data. So, few actionable data steps, actionable metrics that I have that I think you could take along for your company are these. So, in 2021, it was calculated that the US LGBT spending power was $1.4 trillion. We are a massive market, and it is just growing. 21% of Gen Z identifies as LGBTQ, and it's one of the fastest growing minority cohorts. We're double the household income than straights. And this is my favorite. Thank you. And one of my favorite stats, and this is what, when Pride Media came in, they told me, if we were a country, we'd be the 12th largest GDP in the world. So, hearing that, my CMO's ears was like, okay, let's focus. But I will have to say, yes, it's these numbers, and yes, this is definitely what helps sell it in, but it's also exposure. Things I never thought of. I think we kind of live in our bubble of thinking everyone's exposed to LGBTQ media, and they know what we're doing, and they know how fun we are, et cetera. But I brought the first drag show to PepsiCo in 2019, 2019? I don't know. But it was just showing my company that it's fun, and this business aspect is fun. And, that's what's just exposing them to our community, and the beauty of our community is also what helps sell it in. 2 other data points that I had, along with bringing vendors like Target 10, Pride Media, et cetera, and this will show, this metric is important for what you'll see later, but 78% of LGBTQ community will reward brands that get involved with their causes, and 52% are the most vocal online supporters. Now, that could be a good thing and a bad thing, but you'll definitely know the community loves to be commenters on everything. So, understanding, yes. Don't read the comment or read the comments. Depends on how well your thing went. So understanding your consumer, leading with the right brand. Now I know not every company has a brand that has rainbow packaging, but again, I think what worked with with Bubbly is it's been gay since the inception. Having Neil Patrick Harris as our spokesperson, putting media on Ellen DeGeneres, also leading with leveraging insights. So the sparkling water consumer over-indexes with the LGBT community. So it made sense. And what's funny about these insights too, they didn't really exist when I was creating these strategies. I leveraged vendors like CMI, Pride Media, but I was also pulling from memes. And to your point of like hearing constantly, oh, communities only focus in June. I put up a meme in my presentation that like, you know, the community wants to see us outside of Pride. So, what else did we do? We also leveraged concept testing, and that was also key important for every pulse that we did. For Drag for All Flavors, we had pulses throughout the year. It started off in June, ended in December. We had a Halloween pulse, we had a post-Pride pulse, and each time we concept tested before. So we put scripts in front of consumers, we put concepts in front of consumers, we put casting in front of consumers to say, hey, are we nailing this on the head? And then lastly, tracking results, and I think that's really important for having year-over-year success. Now I want to talk about tailoring your strategy. So at PepsiCo, we've actually created teams that are dedicated per marketplace. So we have Bubbly Sparkling Water as a national brand, which I'm on now, but last year I was on a local team called the North Division, and I worked specifically on the New York City market, and then tailored my strategy so that it could work in other markets like Ohio, Philadelphia, Detroit, and that's where we leverage Target 10 to kind of have a make and take model and strategy for our campaign. The other thing to note about Bubbly and why we've had so much success is because this wasn't a one and done type brand. We weren't just at Pride. We didn't show up one year with this big content thing. From its inception, we have been gay, and I'm so proud of that. We have, within the integration with RuPaul in February, which is, again, outside of Pride Month, to being at World Pride with Todrick Hall, to, you know, once the pandemic hit, like what were we gonna do? We had a national Pride campaign, but we also, and this is where I kind of stepped in, we had a local drag for All Flavors, which is leveraging only local talent. And I think that really helped with our credibility within the community because it was saying one insight that I got was, you know, all these Rue girls are getting all the attention, but there's so many more queens out there. And not even queens, drag talent, drag kings, trans queens. So we leveraged only local talent from New York City in our campaign throughout the year. Thank you. And because of that success, we were able to continue. So year 4, we did Path to Parenthood, focusing on LGBTQ families. And then my personal favorite, which I'll show you, and hopefully the video works, Bubbly Out at Night, where we welcomed back New York City nightlife to New York. And then lastly, Coming Home, focusing on chosen family, safe spaces, and creating safe spaces in the US. The next thing I want to talk about is the 360 approach. So one thing I've been noticing with where LGBTQ marketing is going is sometimes brands do a really good job at putting their brand first and then tagging a rainbow, or I see brands really focusing on the community but not really understanding how their brand fits with the message. So it's really important to make sure that you have a balance when you're creating your campaign. So how does that start? Starting off with paid media, working with partners to get that in front of actual LGBTQ eyes. So working with companies like Pride Media, who owns Out Magazine, The Advocate, we worked with them. Making sure that your nonprofit makes sense for the campaign. Again, a lot of times I just see like, oh, we just threw money at a nonprofit, but for instance, on Drag for All Flavors, we had a pulse where it was about LGBTQ elders not getting to be home with their families during the holidays. So what we did was we worked with Sage, and we donated to Sage, and we actually put them in our content in December. Generating new business. That's another thing I hear all the time. Well, it's great that you have all this, but like, what does it do for the business? Well, In our Bubbly Out at Night campaign, we worked with Henrietta Hudson's, which is one of like, at the time, 15, 20 lesbian bars left in the country. We brought in Henrietta Hudson's, the owner, into our content. We gave her a spotlight, we donated money, and then Henrietta Hudson's was so happy about that. She's like, well, let's make you a Pepsi pour. We now formed a 3-year partnership with Henrietta Hudson's, and that just continued throughout New York City. Consumer sweeps. Being actively engaged with the consumer and giving them opportunities that they may not get all the time. So we threw a party specifically for queer people at Tao. We have a bubbly suite at Foxwoods. Our key strategic partners that made sense for us and that we wanted to work with, they wanted to be along with our campaign as well. Having social content influencers that were queer from the whole spectrum, being our evangelists and speaking about the campaign. Key activations at customers, so from the Targets and the Walmarts of the world and having displays and putting our love for all flavors messaging, to smaller partners like Pier 17, throwing drag brunches and giving people, again, a full 360 experience. Lastly, product. Again, what are we? We're sparkling water. We're selling sparkling water. We want to get in front of, we want to get our product in the hands of our consumers. So we were able to work with companies like Glad, who had the Pride box, put the product into the box and get it out to influencers and people alike. And with that, winning with earned media, getting covered by Ad Age, that was a dream of mine. I thought I was going to do that by the time I hit, like, I was hoping for that in my 30s, but it happened earlier, so I was really grateful. But really also understanding that each of these components, doing it from a national perspective and a local level. So the content, yes, we had LGBTQ families, and that was the initiative for the national team. But for me, we knew New York City, it's young, it's Gen Z, it's millennial. These are nightlife folks. That may not work in other cities throughout the US, but we were gonna focus on, you know, the DJs and welcoming back the queens and the party promoters and the bar owners. And to me, that was so grateful because it was also like I got to work with my friends. And I built friendships from this, and it was just, I'm so grateful. Our out of home, you know, yes, you have the love for all flavors, and that's the broader messaging, but actually putting local talent on the POS, point of sale that exists in the bodega so that they could see their faces in the windows during the pandemic. Charitable partners, again, making sure that you're leveraging the right charitable partner. Yes, the Trevor projects are great. Yes, Glad's great. We leverage them and we work with them, but sometimes the smaller charities are the ones that need it the most. And we want to make sure that, hey, that's the one that makes sense for our campaign. And customers as well. The national team does great with getting displays in Target, Walmart, but for my team, I was more looking at the legacies, the gay bars that were in need of some money during the pandemic. So what we did was we gave them a donation, and we actually purchased tables and event opportunities to give queer people the opportunity to win nights at those spaces. But the last thing, and I think this is the most important thing, and the thing I'm most proud of, is that this content piece I'm about to show you, that hopefully the music works, but it was authentically queer in front of the camera and behind the scenes. So I was so grateful, and I'm forever grateful to PepsiCo for giving the trust in me. Again, for some reason they gave me a budget, but they just said, hey, take it and run with it. So I was able to hire massive queer artists like Kim Petras, Vincent, Muna, to smaller artists who you probably have never heard of, like Frankie Simone, up-and-coming talent. We only work with directors who were queer. Austin Nunes, Ali Panku, even to their production staff, they were filled with queer people. And our agency partners like Target 10, Pride Media, Glad. Again, everything about this, and this is why I'm so proud of this campaign, shows this is queer excellence through and through, not only in front of the scenes and who's in our cast, but behind the scenes as well. So with that, I'm going to show you our Bubbly Out at Night. Oh, Ju? Oh.
I think we're getting the sound back.
Okay, oh, great. Should I try? Oh, 2 seconds, okay. So, I don't know who knows Aquaria, but it's funny, yeah, Aquaria is actually going to be in this. She was in our Bubbly Out at Night, and it's funny, when I saw, she was kind of the inspiration for this, and who's ever been to New York, she has a group of friends who kind of lead nightlife. Ty Sutherland, Terrence Ederson, and I had always been admired by them, but they were really the ones that were giving queer people a opportunity to dance again and be together again. And so when the day after, actually what's crazy is the timing of this campaign. The day after the mayor opened up New York City, our campaign launched, and it was our welcome back to New York with queer LGBTQ nightlife. And are we good? Are we good? Okay. You can hear it? I could sing it too. I'm not a very good singer, but I could sing it. I pulled it up on Spotify too because, listen, I work with DJs. I know how crazy it is. All right, we hit it?
Where have you been all my life? And boy, don't stop taking me. Midnight in Brooklyn, you leaned in first. I wasn't looking, but there you were. Lost in a dark room, walking on air. Don't have to see you to know you're there. Drive all the way up, dancing on me, dancing on me. Take me high. Come on! Where have you been all my life? And boy, don't stop taking me higher than I've ever been. Higher than the heavens is. No lie, your hands keep my hands high. Boy, don't stop taking me high.
Thank you so much for getting that word. Thank you, Matthew. And again, that was a labor of love. I think the entire cast was so excited by it. It truly did kind of go a little viral because I think the whole cast was so willing and excited to share with their friends, and their friends shared, and it blew up. So I'm so grateful. Another thing I hear all the time is, how did you track it? What metrics worked? How do I do this again next year? This is what we looked at. So obviously, as marketers, we're looking at impressions. We want to see whose eyes on it. When I tell you, I scraped the budget, but to see this number of what the actual budget was for this, 819 million impressions, 100% positive to neutral sentiment, which again, for queers on its social media, shocking. The fact that they actually liked it and appreciated it, again, grateful. But we looked at things like awareness, local community. A big part of the brand is cracking smiles. So we looked at Gen Z and sparkling water consumers to LGBTQ sparkling water consumers, and consideration. So who's buying it year over year. So I spoke a lot. I apologize. Matthew, over to you.
Actually, yep, got it. Okay, if we're going to pop back to that Blair Amani slide, see if we can do take 2. Oh, sorry, I have the clicker. Oy, all right. So, Blair Amani, everyone.
About Black History Month, we have a question from a smarty named Jessica asking, Blair, why do we have the shortest month of the year for Black History Month? That's a great question, Jessica. Let's get smarter. Get smarter with Blair Amani. Today's lesson is brought to us by Clean and Clear. Thank you so much, Clean and Clear, for helping me educate folks and supporting my work. In 1926, Carter G. Woodson created Negro History Week. Now, today Negro is an outdated way to say African American or Black American or just Black, so don't use it. But back then, it was totally fine and still used popularly. Negro History Week happened during February, and that's because February 12th is Abraham Lincoln's birthday, and February 14th is Frederick Douglass's birthday, 2 major figures in Black history.
So that was just a snippet of a longer piece. That was one of multiple pieces throughout the year. That was in February, obviously, went into June, beyond June, and sure enough, she wound up on the cover of the New York Times within a year. So I'm gonna go a little quickly, and maybe I can steal an extra minute or two. But number 2, not all LGBTQ marketing needs to be about being LGBTQ. And I think John was making this point really nicely earlier as well. You know, we're living our lives, we're drinking iced coffee, we're driving cars, we're buying insurance, we're doing all of these things. And while it's important to, if you have a Pride product that's being done right, sure, talk about it. If you have a nonprofit partnership with GLAAD, with GLSEN, et cetera, talk about it. But we can also just be featured in advertising because we're living in the world as are our cis-het counterparts. So here are two pieces of great creative that are just featuring queer people in advertising.
How was your...
We have to get a new car.
Not with our credit.
Credit Karma can show us how to improve it for free.
Wow.
From free credit scores to auto loans and everything in between. Credit Karma. Download the app today.
Love you.
What'd you call me?
And here's another one.
I booked our hotel in Kayak. It's flexible if we need to cancel.
Cancel? I haven't left the house in a year. Nothing will stop me from vacation! No canceling.
Flexible cancellation. Kayak. Search one and done.
You can see how I wanted the sound. So just two great examples from Kayak, from Credit Karma, where very clever ads, and those were both parts of series of ads where there were similar ads featuring straight couples, because, you know, they're just couples. Number three is looking beyond the usual suspects. And the main point here is we all know that LGBTQ people are supremely talented. There is a huge pool of talent out there beyond people we love, Laverne Cox, Jonathan Van Ness, you know, people who tend to repeat over and over again. You see them associated with a lot of brands. And quite frankly, it's often because they're being selected by general market folks at agencies who don't know anyone else. They're like, well, I know it's Laverne, she's the one, so let's get her. And sometimes she's perfect. She might be perfect in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of other people that might also be perfect who are less well known, who deserve the credit. So I'm gonna show you a piece of creative that Target 10 did for OraQuick, which is an in-home HIV test. And this was at the peak of the sort of 2020 part of the pandemic when masks were just getting started, everything was shut down. And a lot of people with all sorts of other challenges couldn't get tested for HIV. And you know, the awareness level for OraQuick was low. And in particular, if you're deaf or hard of hearing, they hadn't invented these like clear masks yet, or just sort of the go-arounds for masking that was making it really hard for deaf people or people who are hard of hearing. So we identified a up-and-coming micro-influencer named Josh Castile, who's a young queer man who's also deaf, and we partnered with him to create this video that I'll show you a snippet of. And he then proceeds to do a test on camera to show you exactly how it works and how to use it. And you know, his following is largely other queer deaf people. And so you were really laser focusing with a fabulous kid, I mean he's a kid, you know, to reach the people who needed this information most. And so that was a really great partnership that he also, like, he wrote the script, like we ceded control to him because he's the expert. He's the expert with his followers, he's the expert with the queer deaf community, so we kind of let him run with it and it performed extremely well. Number four, the baseline is not the finish line. The point here is, you know, we used to live in a time when very sort of things that are basic now were all you needed to do or all you needed to tout to show support or engagement. We have benefits for same-sex couples. We have health support for trans folks. We have 100 on the CEI. Like, all great and important, but that's not the finish line, and you've got to always raise the finish line. And you know, one of the ways to do that is by, if you have the opportunity, creating a product that is functionally beneficial, in addition to perhaps a nonprofit strategic partnership or anything else you might do, or just simple representation. And this is the one many of you have probably seen, but I think it's worth showing again, and that is this spot from MasterCard.
For transgender people, a secure payment doesn't mean protecting yourself from someone buying sneakers with your card. No, if you're transgender, a secure payment means paying for something without being judged, questioned, disrespected, humiliated, harassed, even assaulted, simply because the name on your card doesn't match how you identify. This is about more than just keeping a card safe. It's about keeping us safe. True Name by MasterCard, the first card that allows you to display your chosen name because that's who you truly are.
I've probably seen that 100 times and it gets me every time. Okay, so we're coming to the end here. Number 5 is, I've been hearing actually a lot about this idea of belonging, which I think is a distinct word from welcoming or being included, and it's better. And the reason it's better is because you don't want to feel like a tack-on, and you don't even want to just feel like you're being tolerated, or that like, yeah, you're welcome, I guess. Like, sometimes there can be a bit of a sense of that, and I think you really want to feel, to the bubbly example, that you're built into the brand's DNA. Not to the exclusion of anyone else, as gender people, straight people, but that you're an equal part with them. And so we think this is a really great example of that.
You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't go with other boys. And don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to say. And please, when I go out with you, don't put me in display, 'cause you don't own me. Don't try to change me in any way. You don't own me. Don't tie me down, 'cause I never stay. I don't tell you what to say. I don't tell you what to do. So just let me be myself. That's all I ask of you. I'm young and I love to be young. I'm free and I love to be free. To live my life the way that I want. To say and do whatever I please.
And one thing I really like about that one in particular, and actually Bubbly Spot as well, is so much of the work that we see, creative and otherwise, about LGBTQ is about trauma and pain and coming out and the difficulties. And the next spot that I'll play, the last one, does tie into that in a bit of a different way, but this just radiates joy. Like, it's queer joy at its finest, and you just don't see it enough, especially across genders and orientations and colors and just everything. So I really like that one. And the last one is, don't task a space aficionado with flying your interplanetary rocket. So what the heck does that mean? What it means is, just because you like space doesn't make you an astronaut. And in the same way, being a queer person doesn't make you an expert in the LGBTQ+ segment. And so even if you have a gay person on your team or a lesbian at the agency, they typically will only know their own lived experience. They might know a lived experience of a friend or a partner, but they're not studying it day in and day out. So you really want to get partners to the degree that you can, the way Bubbly does, the way Wells Fargo does. Partners like Target 10, GLAAD, nonprofits, research vendors, like, build the coalition and get as many viewpoints as you possibly can, because it'll only make the work richer and more nuanced. And so this last creative example is unbelievable. I'm gonna try to hold it together, but this is actually from a queer female filmmaker named Alice Wu.
我们都是一家人。你们绕过半个地球来着，就是想给我们更好的生活。 可是我是可是我爱你。
爱
爱，我爱你。
I think you're ready.
你呢？你 ready 了吗？
That's a tough one. And so with literally a minute left, I'll leave you with this note, or rather it's a quote from the one and only George Takei. We should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity. Thank you.